Hello everyone, welcome to Australian Book Travels and welcome to Monday the 14th of October, which is actually the last day of our competition, but more about that later. That's exciting. Okay, so for those of you who have just joined the channel or you've joined over the last few weeks, welcome. But also a little explanation. These book recommendations I try and work in one take, so there's no editing apart from the very beginning and the end. So what you see is what you get. If you hear geese honking or you see a dog walking in front of the screen, bumping the camera, that's what happens. I think it makes it more interesting for us. It makes it more like a chat rather than constant editing and flicking of the camera. So I hope that suits you. I hope that's okay with you, but that's the way it works. And also, if you have just joined the channel, don't forget we do have our travel videos where we travel around Australia, and particularly at the moment we're concentrating in Victoria and just across the borders into other states, but we're mainly concentrating on Victorian country towns, where we go looking for bookshops and public libraries and street free libraries. So if you're not aware of that, they're normally up I normally upload new ones on a Saturday. But of course they're always on the channel, so you can flick through the channel and have a look. Speaking of which, I have had a break from the travel. As most of you know, I've had a break from the travel videos. They will begin again this coming Saturday. So what's that, the 19th or something, Saturday? So we begin our travels again. And in light of that too, next week, our book recommendation will be in a different location. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Just something to break up the same old background for you. So it makes it a little different. Anyway, I hope you're all well. I hope you're all enjoying, wherever you are in the world, I hope you're enjoying your weather. We're now right in spring, and it's been a funny start to our spring actually, but today, the last few days have been very warm, starting to get warmer, not quite into our hot weather yet, but we have had temperatures in the 20s. We still haven't had much rain. We've had a little bit, and we're not complaining, but we do need more rain, and we've been promised rain at the end of this week. So fingers crossed, everyone. We really need it. The other day we had to buy 2 tanker loads of water because we're really running low. It's not good, people. I'm hoping it's not an omen for the summer. It's really a worry. And going on from that, before we get into the book recommendations as well, of course I took time off from the travel videos so that I could work my bees, because I am a beekeeper, and so we could do some fire prevention works. And because of the weather, how strange it has been, cloudy and windy and all of that, we really have not had the ability to do as much work as we like. We've started it. We've started tackling the big jobs, but we have a lot more fire prevention work to do, and I have a lot more work to do on the bees. So anyway, hopefully we'll get there. Okay, I'm hoping you all have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever time of the day you are watching this. If you're having a little aperitif or a glass of champagne or something, that's fine too. I haven't actually. I forgot mine this morning, so I will try and do this without a dry, croaky throat. Okay, everyone, let's get into it. Now, this first one I read quite some time ago. This is by Baroness Orczy. You've probably heard of her. She wrote The Scarlet Pimpernel, and she also wrote what was the other one she wrote? The Emperor's... Oh, I can't remember. give me time. It'll come back to me. But she was a writer through the early 19th century. I think she was born in 1860s and she died in the late 1940s. Not a golden age crime classic writer. She did write some, of course, The Scarlet Pimpernel. She wrote some romance and more mystery fiction, really. Now, before we get into this, you know I don't like this, but it's a necessity. I have to, otherwise I can't see a thing. So, and I can see you better. So that makes it much nicer, doesn't it? Okay, so this one is the Teahouse Detective, or it was originally titled The Old Man in the Corner. So this is a series of short stories in the one story, really. It's an unnamed gentleman who was a detective, and we find him in a tea house, and he is approached by a young person, and he discusses some of the mysteries and how he has solved those mysteries over his tenure as a detective. Really quite mischievous in the writing, very pleasant, fairly comfy, reminiscent of the Golden Age crime classics, but I wouldn't say that she's certainly not front and centre in the Golden Age crime classics. As I say, she was more into the romance and the more mystery, just a mystery. So yes, whilst we're sitting in the tea house, our detective, he reminds me a little bit of Sherlock Holmes. But as I say, he is unnamed. So we don't actually get to know who he is. But look, I recommend this, really comfy, cosy, and Baroness Orczy is a little mischievous in her writing. I enjoyed it. And if you can, I recommend it. Definitely a good winter read or autumn read, perhaps. Just that comfy, cosy, sitting by the fire, reading that one. Now, this is all up. This one is... There are a couple of these, by the way, in this series. 284, really. Yeah, finished in 284 pages. And this one was first published in 1908 by Hodder and Stoughton. And this one was published edition was published in 2018 by Pushkin Press. Now, she was Hungarian, Baroness Orczy, if the name doesn't give it away, but she did live in England. I think she moved to England with her family when she was about, she must have been in her teens, and she subsequently lived and died there. Except for a short stint. I think she moved overseas during the war. I think she had to live outside of England during the war, the Second World War. But yes, really interesting. I recommend it. Good fun. Now, the next one, the next couple are absolutely beautiful. I have discussed Tia Cooper before. Tia Cooper is an Australian author. She lives in Sydney. I think she spent some time in South Australia, but she now lives in Sydney. She's probably written around about 10 to 15 books. Her books are usually, or they are, historical fiction, and they have a lot of wonderful, strong female protagonists. But overall, she's a really strong writer. And what I do love about Tia Cooper, this one, I'll just show you. This one is The Fossil Hunter, which we'll discuss shortly. I know I have already spoken about Tia Cooper. As I say, she's written between 10 to 15 books, and I think I have probably half a dozen of them, maybe more. But Tia Cooper she's really a good, strong writer and a lovely historical base to the stories. A little bit of romance in them, but overall the story, without being gushy and soft and mushy, the stories are romantic in a way, as well. As there is some romance involved in them, but the writing is strong and romantic. There's an air of, when I read her books, there's always an air of there's a, I don't know, she's just a really strong, beautiful writer. There's a belief in the story, and she always, what I really love about her is she always writes about Australia. The stories are always based in Australia. They may be in different time zones. They may flick from one time zone to another, but they're always in Australia. And I absolutely love that about Tia. But more importantly, I love her writing. As I say, there's a sort of a romantic way that she writes. And I'm sure that's also because she writes so beautifully and atmospheric, extremely atmospheric. You really do get a sense of time and place with her, and a sense of Australia, and a sense of historical Australia as well. They're very committed and strong stories and strong writing. Look, if you haven't gathered so far, I really do love Tia Cooper's work. Kate Morton is another, but Kate Morton, I have found, she doesn't always write about Australia or stories in Australia. Beautiful writing, but I was, and we can go into this a little later, I have said it in another video when I think at the end of last year, where I just found her latest, Homecoming, not as not as good as her others. But I digress, because we're talking about Tia Cooper, and to me, she is the epitome of beautiful, strong Australian historical writing. I don't know that you can get too much better than Tia Cooper if you're looking for a little bit of history, if you're looking for beautiful writing, if you're looking for anything on Australia, and a little bit of romance. But it's more, as I say, it's not mushy. It's a sensible and believable romance whenever romance is involved. Put these back on. Now, The Fossil Hunter is between two timelines. The other thing with Tia Cooper, she does write a lot in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales, which is beautiful because then you get a real sense of place. But yes, this is between two timelines. One in the mid 1800s, and then we skip to the early 1900s. I think 1920 from memory, or 1919, something like that. But this is a mystery, obviously, with the two timelines. There's a mystery that we go back into in the 1840s. It does involve fossil hunter or paleontologists. But yeah, look, I won't tell you any more than that. It does flick between those two timelines. Always strong female protagonists, but that really beautiful writing. I really do like Tia Cooper. And the other thing, which I've forgotten to mention, she has a new book out. I think it's on the 1st of November or the 30th of October. 1st of November, something like that. I can't wait to get it. I think it's called The Golden Thread. So, look, if you're interested in getting into Tia Cooper, she's written The Cartographer's Secret, The Fossil Hunter, The Talented Mrs. Greenway. Oh my goodness, there are quite a few actually that I have on the shelf. What are the other ones? The Girl in the Green Dress, I think. Let me have a look. The Woman in the Green Dress, which is the one I have. The Girl in the Painting, Cartographer's Secret. Do we have a list of any others? There's those three on the back. And no, we don't have a list of any of the others. But I do know that she has another one coming out, and I will be grabbing that. Absolutely. I do love Tia Cooper. If you want to know about Australia, Australian author, Australian stories completely, with good historical fact, even though it's fiction, and a sense of place, this is absolutely the author for you. A little bit of romance too. Now, let me see. This is 374 pages, and it is published by HQ. So it's published by HQ Fiction, which is an imprint of Harlequin, as we know, in Sydney. And this one was published in 2021, not her latest. There was The Talented Mrs. Greenway was in 2022, I think. That was her last one from memory. But yeah, she's a really talented writer. I can't recommend her enough. She's wonderful. I love her stories. So that's The Fossil Hunter. I think you'll like that one. It's interesting. Now, speaking of interesting, because I really do enjoy Tia Cooper and I really do recommend her highly, but there is someone on the horizon, everyone. She has debuted her novel, The Story Thief. This is by Kira Geddes. My goodness. Now, this is her first novel, although I think she's a journalist. And just going back to Tia, I think she was a teacher, a journalist, and she was, or she still is, on a farm. So that gives you an indication. It doesn't always fit with journalism, but it goes to show the writing, how good it is with that background of being a teacher and a journalist, and also having the outback information with the atmosphere that she presents in her books. It's very fitting and understandable that she has that background, and then she places it in her books. Now, this is Kira's debut novel, as I say. Oh my goodness, everyone. You are going to be so impressed. Now, all up with book club questions and with acknowledgements and so forth, it's 406 pages, but the actual story is, there's author's notes, historical information. The story is 393 pages. This is I think it's by Affirm Press. I think it was published this year. Yes, it's by Affirm Press, and I'm 2024, correct. Now, this is a paperback, but you have, and there's a reason why you have this painting on the end papers. I'll show you the back as well. Now, I don't normally give you a lot of the history or a lot of the information in the book, but I do want to give you a little bit about this one because it will then help you understand where I'm coming from with this. So, we begin the story, essentially, I beg your pardon, I've just moved the camera. Sorry, everyone. Did I give your eyes a bit of a shake there? Sorry. Essentially, this is a memoir. It's fiction, but it's written in a memoir form. And we begin in 1900, although our female protagonist, Lillian, was born in 1892 in far west northwest New South Wales. She was born on a farm where it very rarely rains. Her father is a drover, and so her mother is left a good part of the year looking after the children on the farm on her own. And they have, I think it's 5 or 6 children, including Lillian. Now, the story begins in 1900. Lillian is 8 years of age, and she, through various ways, we come across the fact that her mother senses that there is a bushfire coming. She asks Lillian to run with her brother, I think, to the next farm where her uncle and aunt are living to seek help. And she asks Lillian to stay at the uncle's property to get away from the fire. The mother is left with the other children. And the brother who goes with Lillian then drops her off at the uncle's place, and he gets on horseback with the uncle, and they all go back to the farm, the family farm, to fight the fire. And unfortunately, they all perish in the fire, and Lillian is left on her own, apart from her father, who is out at the time. He is a drover and he is out working. She never actually gets to see the father again. He doesn't want to see Lillian for his own reasons that we get to discuss throughout this novel. And her father's employer becomes Lillian's benefactor because the father does not want anything to do with Lillian. And he's a relatively wealthy man, and he becomes her benefactor. And in 1900, Lillian finds herself in essentially a boarding school run by nuns in Sydney, or near Sydney. And from there, the story goes from there. Of course, it's a memoir it's written in memoir form, so we are looking back. Now, Lillian, I've sort of worked out that Lillian, when she's meant to have written this, is probably in her 60s, perhaps closer to 70. So she still has life to go. It's not right at the end of her life, but she still has a good life to go. But of course, there has been a lot that has happened in that 60 odd years. And we get to participate in that. This is a story not just about loss and grief. In fact, we find Lillian reflecting throughout her life on her mother and family in different forms at different stages of her life. And so we see a change in Lillian's thought processes and understanding and empathy with her father and her mother and so forth. But it's more than that. This is, of course, we go through Lillian's life. So there's employment, there's schooling, there's employment, there's marriage and all of that. And we are taken through all of her thought processes through those times in her life. This, I have to say, was the most beautifully written, exceptional story I have read in a long time. The last few years I have been very lucky reading. I have been a little discerning with what I read and what, once upon a time I would read anything and everything. Now I'm outside my comfort zone, but I'm still being careful with what I purchase and what I read and what I recommend. But this is top of the books that I have read in its genre. I'm not going to say it's the best of all the books because we've had some wonderful murder mysteries and conspiracies, books on conspiracies and things, just fictional, of course, but in a fictional memoir life affirming life story. This is absolutely stunning. I really mean that. It is absolutely beautiful. There's a bit of romance, of course, but Lillian reflects on who she is. Oh, I didn't want to say everything about this book, but I am going to have to say something because it actually relates to the end papers. Lillian, while she is at school, she reads Henry Lawson's The Drover's Wife. Now, most of you will know, but if you don't know, Henry Lawson is a very famous poet and short story writer here in Australia in the 1800s, early 1900s. He's a bit of a character in himself. He had a little bit of a checkered life, but he's certainly one of our most famous writers. And he wrote The Drover's Wife. Now, whilst she is at school, Lillian is of the belief that The Drover's Wife, written by Henry Lawson, is written about her family, hence the title, The Story Thief. And so running through this entire book is a connection to Henry Lawson and his story, The Drover's Wife, and also the painting that was painted by, it was titled The Drover's Wife, but it was painted in, I think in the 40s or 50s maybe, and I can't remember the artist's name. Again, I will put that in the subtitle. I can't, just off the top of my head, I can't remember he's a famous painter, and he painted The Drover's Wife, believed to be as a result of Henry Lawson's story. But, so we have this connection, or is it? We don't know. And Lillian doesn't really know. She begins firmly believing that Henry Lawson knew her mother, and I guess that has a lot to do with her grief and that wanting to stay connected with her mother, who obviously perished in the fire. So there's all through, there is a connection, whether it be excerpts from Henry Lawson's book or Henry Lawson's life himself. We also get, this is historical fiction, but there is historical fact. In fact, Kira gives you, at the end of the book, in her author's notes, she does give you the facts of Henry Lawson and where he was at the time that he is mentioned in the book. His mother, of course, was also a very famous women's rights activist, and she was a writer herself. So we get a little bit of her story also. But yeah, so we get these wonderful black and white photos of Henry Lawson and places that are mentioned in the story, and sketches of The Drover's Wife and so forth. This is marvellous. It's absolutely brilliant. I felt a sense of loss when I finished it. I didn't want to finish it. It's one of those books where you really want to hold on to it. It will be on my bookshelf forevermore because it was absolutely beautiful. If this is Kira's first book, and we all know that oftentimes authors get better and better, then we're in for an incredible author and incredible list of books, I think, in the future. This was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It was emotional. It had that historical content. Interesting, extremely interesting. We have that thoughtfulness where Lillian is thinking over things, even her connection and relationships to her own immediate family, so her husband and children. And I think the overriding theme that I took from this, apart from anything else, the grief and loss, sense of loss and all of that, was that you have to be who you are. You have to be honest to yourself, and you have to do anything and everything, so long as it doesn't hurt other people, but anything and everything that is right for you. It may not be right for other people, and people may scorn you or they may judge you, but so what? So long as you're not hurting anybody else, and so long as you're not, so long as you're not doing anything dangerous or hurting anybody else, then be who you are, be who you want to be, because that's your story. That was the overriding theme that I got from this, but honestly, I got so much more from this book. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's a new sort of story. It's fresh, authentic. Look, and you again, you get a real sense of place in Australia, that in the outback, that dry and that burning heat and that life-sucking heat and dry. It was absolutely fantastic. I love it. I'm going to recommend this forevermore, and goodness help us when Kira, or if Kira writes another book, I'm going to pre-order it for sure, because if it's true that authors get better as they go along, we are in for an amazing time reading Kira's books. This was an amazing debut novel. I loved it. Now, I did tell you, didn't I? It's a firm press, and all up with book club questions and things, it's 406 pages. I haven't seen it in hardcover. That's a shame, because I'd love it in a hardcover. Hint, hint, a firm press, if you're watching. I think this deserves to be in a hardcover. As I say to you, a story is a story, whether it's a hardcover or a paperback, but I do love my books. I think they age better, and they just feel more of a book to me when they're a hardcover. Nevertheless, this is stunning. Even if it was in loose leaf, I would love it. It's absolutely beautiful. It is one of the best. Look, honestly, these two women, wow, absolutely wow. I think if you're looking for a good historical fiction novel to read, you can't go wrong with Tia Cooper, and you certainly cannot go wrong with The Story Thief. This is brilliant. It's evocative. Yeah, it's, as I say, I did not want to give the characters up. I didn't want to leave this book. I felt almost, without sounding silly, almost a little bereaved when I finished this. I loved all of the characters, good, bad and ugly. I love them all. I think she did a marvellous job in presenting us with these flawed characters. And that's one thing I did love about Lillian. She's flawed, and she knows it. She's not claiming to be... And that, I think that's why she's so self-reflective in this story, that it has that memoir feel, that formation, because she is looking back and thinking, how did I think that, and why did I think that, and that's at the time, that was right at the time. Yeah, it was just beautiful. I really love this. I recommend it, everyone. The Story Thief by Kira Geddes. Because it was new out, I have said to you in the past, I don't always go for things that are popular. I don't read popular or just necessarily just new out. But lately there have been a number of books from Fremantle Press as well. I have had the advanced readers copies, and also from other publishing houses in Australia, Australian authors that have absolutely impressed me, really impressed me. I just think Australian writers have always, I think they've always been undervalued. And I mean, for a period of time there, probably through the 70s and 80s, apart from a couple of writers, we didn't have a plethora of writers in Australia, and certainly not good ones. But we are there is just so much talent in Australia now. It is beautiful. It is wonderful. It is exciting. I think, and they are Australian. They're not necessarily imported. In the early days, in the 20s, right up even to the 1960s, a lot of people were English and they came out to Australia and they called Australia home. But now we have homegrown writers in Australia, and they are world class, absolutely world class. I'm so impressed and I'm so excited. Anyway, they're the three. This, the Baroness Orczy, she's fantastic. That's a lovely little comfy, cozy read, detective. Then we have Tia Cooper. I will be mentioning a lot more of Tia Cooper in the future because I do have a number of her books, and I will be buying her next book that is out in one place told me it was out on the 30th of October, and then on Tia's website, on Tia's website, it had that the next book was out on the 1st of November. So it'll be one of those dates, but I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to reading her next one because she is a beautiful writer. And The Story Thief, Kira Geddes. Wow, Kira, you have done yourself... Well, I don't know how you're going to beat this because I think there was a lot of, obviously a lot of research that went into this because Henry Lawson, there is a lot of facts here on Henry Lawson, and as you can see at the back of the book, a lot of photos and a lot of research. It's absolutely beautiful. I loved it. I cannot tell you how much I love that. It was just wonderful. Okay, everyone, today is Monday. I'm going to try and get this up to you for this afternoon. Don't forget the book competition. Now, the book competition finishes tonight. And when I say finishes, it really sort of starts because entries for the book competition must be in after midnight tonight. So the first person to get the correct answers in, emailed to me at ostbooktravels@yahoo.com. After midnight tonight, you will be the winner. Now, there are two winners, one in the Northern Hemisphere, one in the Southern Hemisphere. So there are two, is that two chances to win? Not really two chances to win, is it? But there's not one winner. There will be two. And we are trying to support independent bookshops in those hemispheres. I'm hoping that Sherlock and Pages, they haven't emailed me back, unfortunately. I have been trying to email them. I know they're busy trying to boost up and work on their own bookshop business in England, but I do need to be able to contact them so that we can get the winning book out to the winner in the Northern Hemisphere. And in the Southern Hemisphere, I think I have asked Wardini Books in New Zealand to supply the book. And depending on where we are in Australia, I may ask Abby's Bookshop also to supply the winning book in the Southern Hemisphere, but it just depends. It depends on how that goes. It'll be one or maybe two. There'll be at least two winners. So if I think there should be more, and if we can afford to do that, there may even be a few more winners. So yes, get your answers in by email to ostbooktravels. I'll put it here in the subtitles. ostbooktravels@yahoo.com. It is the most correct answers to the 12 questions in the book competition video that was uploaded a few weeks ago on the 1st of October. And also the first to get the answers in after midnight tonight. Good luck, everyone. I hope you, it would be nice if you could all win, but unfortunately we can't afford to do that. So yeah, hopefully well, of course we do have our first year anniversary coming up, our birthday, on the 6th of November. And we are looking at possibly just a very quick, short competition. It may even be that you send me your names through email, and we'll put your names in a hat, and I may draw out the winner on the day of our birthday. We will have a video on the day of our birthday to celebrate, and I'll have a little glass of champagne, and we may even make a cake or something and celebrate it. It has been an amazing year. It has been frustrating. It has been entertaining for me. It has been exciting, and I've learnt so much on how to video and how to edit and what works and what doesn't. We still have a lot of learning to go. We know that, but hopefully you will be along on that journey with us, and you can watch us grow and watch us improve, hopefully. And if there are if there is anything that you feel that we could improve on, or that you would like to see on the channel, by all means, let us know. We do have sneaky midweekers, which I failed to do in September, just because we've been really busy, unfortunately. I am hoping that this October we'll have a sneaky midweek one sneaky midweeker mid-month for you. But we'll see how we go with that. We are busy trying to get everything done around the property. So, okay, and of course, the roses are growing in the garden. We're very excited about that. Everything's looking the perfume in the garden is just astounding. When we walk outside, it really hits you. It's just beautiful, because we have a lot of citrus trees and a lot of roses, and it's just beautiful. So yeah, we're really enjoying, particularly in the last few days, the garden has really started to blossom. But we can discuss more on that too. I'm hoping to perhaps give you a video. We do have the chicken run that we're trying to renovate at the moment, so we will be uploading video on that as a sneaky midweeker, and also perhaps show you around the garden and what we've done so far and what we haven't done. Because when we first came here on the property, it was just an empty field, and it was harsh. It had been overgrazed and over-tilled, which really damaged the soil. So anyway, hopefully we'll be able to give you we'll be able to show you some updates, and I'll be able to show you perhaps video or photos from when we first came here and show you the difference. It has been amazing, and we have had a lot more wildlife. Oh, that's the other thing I meant to tell you, and I'll show you. I'll put a photo here on the screen. This last week, I forgot to tell you all, we had our first kingfisher bird. I'm sure you'll all know the kingfishers, but I will put a photo up here. Visit the property ever. We've been here 13 years. We built the house 10 years ago, and we've been working the garden for the last 9 years, and we have improved wildlife. We've had pelicans and spoonbills and herons and all sorts of birds, pardalotes, but it was our first kingfisher. We were so excited, and he or she stayed around all day. So we knew it was a kingfisher because we had very good visuals on it. It was just beautiful. We were so excited. So that was our first kingfisher. We think we were surprised he was here actually in central Victoria, but we're of the understanding that he may have been in migration. So it may have just been a stop-off point. But we're so pleased he or she stopped off here. It was really exciting. So yeah, I'll show you a photo of the kingfisher if you're not aware of them or what they look like. They're a beautiful bird. They're only tiny, but yeah, it was so exciting. Anyway, okay, that's enough for now. Don't forget the book competition tonight. If you haven't entered, or you haven't begun answering the questions, you still have time, so get in there and do that. I will see you next week in a different location or a different backdrop, just to change it up a little bit, and I'm hoping to get a sneaky midweeker out in the next few weeks. We'll see how we go with that. An update on the chicken renovation, the chicken coop renovation, And if you want to make a comment or you want to get in contact, please do make a comment below. Please do like, share and subscribe. We are trying to boost Australia, the books, bookshops, street-free libraries and public libraries. Also, for those of you who have just joined the channel, whenever we travel anywhere, we do try and replenish street-free libraries, and we give them a bit of a clean. So that's on behalf of all of us, behalf of you and us as a channel. We do that, and yeah, we've got some exciting things coming up in the next few weeks. So I hope you will continue to join us. All right, everyone. Happy reading, safe travels, good eating. Make sure you eat well. And I don't have a recipe for you this week, perhaps next week. And I will see you hopefully on Saturday for the next travel video, or Monday for our next book recommendation. Okay, everyone, take care. Look after yourselves. Bye for now.